Ta-ta! Hello kids, welcome to my second art lesson video. I'm very excited. Not a lot of people are watching these art lesson videos, but it's cool, I'm just trying to share some information with art lovers. So I think it's gonna find its right place in time, like everything else. Anyway, today we're going to learn a little about lighting. Yes, because lighting is very important, kids. Lighting really helps us to understand the shapes and their volumes in our drawings. Also, it adds a lot of mood to our compositions, to our paintings. So, lighting is very important, kids, and I think lighting is a very fun subject. We can talk hours and hours about lighting, just about lighting, but still, we gotta move on. So, let's get on with our drawing. What am I doing here? I drew 3 circles and they're going to be actually spheres. So what's the difference between a circle and a sphere? A circle doesn't have a volume, it just has an area, but a sphere has a volume, and we're going to use lighting to reveal that volume. So, each of these 3 spheres, I know they look kind of crooked, kids. I'm sure yours looks better than mine, but still. Each of these spheres will have their own light source. The light bulb on the upper right corner of the page will be illuminating the sphere on the right. The light bulb in the middle will be illuminating the sphere in the middle, and the light bulb in the upper left corner of the page will be illuminating the left sphere. And just to make sure, I drew the directions of these light sources. There are a lot of concepts that we can talk about when we're talking about lighting, but I just don't want to confuse you kids, so I will try to keep it simple. As a start, I'm going to be talking about the light, the shadow, and the shading. We have 3 spheres, and these 3 spheres are standing on a ground. What we need to do is determine where the light is going to be, where we're going to put the shading, and where are we going to place our shadows. Since I have 3 different spheres that are affected by 3 different lights, the placements of lights and shadows and shadings will be different on each of these spheres because they receive the light from different directions, and that's the most important thing about lighting, its direction. Every time we start drawing something, first of all, I think we need to determine where the light will be coming from, at least if we're going to shade that drawing or paint it. The first sphere, the one on the left, receives light from upper left corner of the page. So its upper left parts will look a lot lighter than its other parts. As a result, I'm shading the lower right corner of that sphere. And I'm using just a gray marker right now for the shading because shading is going to be like a middle tone in my lighting study in this video. The illuminated parts of my objects are going to be totally white, and the shading is going to be gray, and the shadows are going to be black. Now I'm on my second sphere, the one in the middle, and it receives light from directly above it. As a result, I'm shading the bottom part of that sphere, and the top part of the sphere is going to be totally white. When I'm adding shading to my objects, I'm following their shapes. The shadings on these objects are curvy because they're spheres, and that also helps me reveal their shapes. Now we're shading our last sphere, kids. This one receives light from upper right corner, so the shading is going to be on the lower left corner of my sphere. I know there are no stories in these learning videos, kids, but still, that doesn't mean that we cannot give names to our spheres. I want to name my spheres, alright? So who cares? The one on the left, I'm gonna name it Layla. And the one on the middle is going to be Malcolm. And the one on the right is going to be Raymond. Why not? We're almost done with shading, and now it's time to put the shadows into our drawing. These are called cast shadows because they're being casted by 3 objects onto the ground they're standing on. So what are cast shadows? If an object is blocking the light of another object, it means it's casting its shadow to the second object. In our drawing, our 3 spheres will be casting their shadows onto the ground they're standing on. But where to put these shadows? We're gonna use the same logic with shading. If the light is coming from one direction to an object, its shadow is going to be placed on the opposite direction. As a result, the shadow of Raymond will be on the lower left corner. The shadow of the middle sphere, Malcolm, will be right under it because the light's coming from right above it. I don't know what you think, but I think it's starting to look okay. I can see where they get their light from, and also the shadows under them make them really pop out of the paper. And the shading that we used on them gives volume and thickness to our spheres. And now we're putting the last shadow of the last sphere. The light is coming from upper left corner to that sphere, so the shadow is going to be on the lower right corner of that sphere. If you like this video, if you think it was helpful, you can go and check out the perspective video, the first drawing lesson video that I did, and it's going to teach you how to draw a perspective cube, and maybe then you can try to combine these two lessons. Yeah. Why not? You can draw a perspective cube and put a light source in that drawing and draw the shadow and the shading. And ta-da!